I could do videos on this. I could do hours of content on this. In fact, I have. Check out my podcast, Overthinking Everything, or any of my YouTube videos at the link above. Chances are you learned about Helen Keller before you learned about W.E.B. Du Bois. Chances are you learned about Helen Keller and maybe didn't even learn about W.E.B. Du Bois. Maybe you're Googling W.E.B. Du Bois now. You probably learned in high school that the Civil War was about states' rights, but you weren't taught that the Civil War was about states' rights over which states had the right to own slaves, or what the actual true moral compromise in the Missouri Compromise was. You were probably told that the Civil War wasn't about slavery at all, when slavery or slaves are mentioned over 80 times in the Articles of Secession. We hear a lot about black crime, we hear a lot about black-on-black crime, but then white crime is never lumped into one category like that. We learned about the New Deal. We didn't learn about redlining. And we learned about the New Deal, but we also didn't learn about the full oppression of the American government on the southern states following the Civil War in the early 20th century as eminent domain swallowed up a lot of their land. We learned about the New Deal, but we didn't learn that most of those programs were socialist-based policies. In fact, our history has been completely wiped of the word socialism in any positive context, even though America once had an American Socialist Party. Teddy Roosevelt did away with that when he absorbed all of their ideologies and talking points and principles into his Progressive Party, which came in second. Woodrow Wilson won. Remember? The guy that promised not to take us into World War I but did. We all heard for years of the black parts of bigger cities than we'd ever leave our hometowns to go to. We heard about the black ghettos, but we didn't hear about Black Wall Street. We learned about Watts, we learned about L.A., we learned about the Black Lives Matter riots, but we don't talk too much about Tulsa or Wilmington. We learned things like, George Washington never told a lie. He chopped down the cherry tree, and his teeth were made out of wood. Yeah, that sounds totally better. George Washington's dentures were made out of wood. Let's go with that. The first president of the United States would not have had dentures made out of the teeth of slaves. Except he did. Why should you vote blue over red? Because while the Republicans are shouting and crying over critical race theory, the left is actually just telling you truth and facts like I just did. That's history.